Welcome, travelers, to another episode of the Time Travel Trio podcast. I'm Jen.
I'm Matt.
And I'm Hyde.
And we're
The
Time Travel Trio!
Fell off a cliff and exploded. Because anything in a movie that falls off a cliff explodes.
Yeah.
Rules.
Slowly, quietly.
Unless the hero's not supposed to survive. Then it crashes like things normally do.
Mm-hmm.
Or some movies where they explode and then fall off the cliff.
Yes.
They as soon as they go over the edge, they explode and then fall on fire.
Or if the explosion pushes them through the air and it goes over a cliff and then they fall down. That would be twice as bad.
Physics. Just make sure you're not Doctor Strange falling off the cliff. Because your hands, man.
Your hands.
My hands.
My hands. Okay, anyway.
Sorry.
Speaking of superheroes.
Speaking of Doctor Strange, we're not doing that today. It's okay. It's on the list, though.
It's on the list.
It's on the list.
It's on the list.
We talked about it because it's in addition to the Rachel McAdams saga
franchise.
Franchise.
She plays the same character.
The secret franchise. Yeah.
Secret franchise.
It kind of is this similar character.
They're all similar characters.
Okay.
It's just decides if she's likable or not in these movies.
Yeah, it differs. That definitely is a factor. What'd you pick for us today, Hyde?
Well, I picked the DC animated film Flashpoint Paradox.
Whoop whoop.
Which, of course, covers the Flash, the speedster. This came out in
2013.
2013, okay. And the synopsis is, the Flash finds himself in a war-torn alternate timeline and teams up with alternate versions of his fellow heroes to return home and restore the timeline.
Woo! There's a lot of time words in that.
Yeah. The director was Jay Olivia, who's directed a few other animated projects, and it also stars the voice talents of Justin Chambers, C. Thomas Howell, Michael B. Jordan, Carrie Ewells, Jennifer Hale, Kevin McKidd, Kevin Conroy. Nathan Fillion. That's right, Nathan Fillion's in it.
It's a lot of big, yeah.
Danny Houston, I forgot Danny Houston's in this. In a very small role, but Danny Houston is in this. Who
Still
also will be in the Wonder Woman movie coming out this summer. Anyway,
interesting.
DC has always done very well with their animated films and their TV shows.
Yeah.
Because a lot of their animated shows no longer are on the air, or some of them have storylines that would be inappropriate for kids, they will make directed DVD or VHS movies, which the Flashpoint Paradox falls in. And this covers the miniseries in the comics created by Jeff Johns and James Krieg. Jeff Johns, if you guys are paying attention to the drama happening in the DC film world, a lot of people are asking Jeff Johns to take the reins from Zack Snyder. Unofficially, he kind of has, but I don't know if officially Jeff Johns is the man in control.
So, is this pretty close to the actual comic story of Flashpoint?
Yeah. I mean, it's pretty similar.
Okay.
I was telling Jen before we started recording, it's funny watching the movie. It's kind of like the typical, it's a B movie or it's a direct-to-DVD or VHS movie. We had to up the violence in sorts.
Yeah.
The comic, at least from what I remember, the comic's violent, but it's not as graphic as this is, probably because Jeff Johns was thinking, kids are probably going to read the Flashpoint Paradox. So yeah, this was... I forgot how violent this movie was until I was watching it, kind of not late at night.
Looking through someone's brain.
Yeah, it's just kind of oh my gosh, geez. And the Flash if I was watching a Batman movie or The Punisher, or even to stick with DC, even Wonder Woman can get pretty violent.
Yeah.
But the Flash just never feels right when the Flash gets too violent.
Well, yeah, for him, he doesn't, first of all, he doesn't kill people, but he doesn't have guns or weapons. He just punches people usually, or uses his powers to move them around or throw lightning at them. He never dismembers people.
Right. And his deadliest villains also don't use slice and dice or guns. You have the cold gun and the heat gun, but that just freezes people or burns people.
Right.
Yeah, it feels like they're more psychological villains.
Yeah.
They want to be smart about it and mess with you in emotional ways, not just physically.
Right. Even the Trickster, which is the Flash's Joker, so to speak, though he's not his arch rival like Joker is the Batman. Even the Trickster is a more toned down version of the Joker. Less psychotic, less violent version of the Joker. So it is a little weird watching the movie, and I do understand it's supposed to be this really dark timeline, but some of the violence is a little okay, we get it.
When it's when his Aquaman's arm gets chopped off at the end, that's a little he's not even bleeding. They don't even show blood or anything. It's just his.
Yeah,
anyway.
his arm. Well,
I
I guess Superman's heat eyes cauterize the wound.
Yeah, that's true.
Okay.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I guess that's why there's no like.
I guess.
And they had to let Wonder Woman kill Aquaman, so you know.
Yeah, it's like a lightsaber. You know how like you get your arm cut off, but you don't like spurt blood. It just kind of
The heat.
Yeah, I hate when that happens.
You hate when that happens.
So obviously Hyde has seen this movie. I have not seen this before. We did it for the podcast, and I know you have not.
Yeah, likewise for me too. The most I've seen of the Flash is from the TV show.
Yeah, that's what I was gonna say. We all watched the Flash TV show, so while we are gonna talk about that a little bit, I just want to preface by saying we're gonna in a few weeks we're gonna do a different. I guess in a few months, I actually should say. We're going to do...
several more episodes from
Yes. Thank you. We're going to do a entirely separate episode about the Flash TV show when we start getting into TV, which is pretty soon. So if you're like, well, why didn't you talk about this? Why didn't you compare that? Whatever. Blah, 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 blah. We want to wait for this current season 3 of the Flash TV show to finish because they're doing the Flashpoint storyline right now. Spoilers, I guess, if you didn't know that, but sorry. Yeah, so obviously we want to wait, see how that plays out, and then compare once that storyline has reached some more conclusions. So let's play the trailer for Flashpoint Paradox.
World War III. Maybe I could have stopped it. If I just ran a little faster. Faster! The Speed Force allows the Reverse Flash to travel through time. He changed something in the past. We have to find out what he changed and change it back before they kill everyone on the planet. In my world, I'm a hero.
You mean like Batman?
No matter how fast you run, you can't save everyone.
We're running out of time.
War's over. Everybody lost.
No!
You'd be amazed the monsters this world can create.
Cool, so...
I feel like we've seen that tagline before. It said "Fight the future" at the end. I'm pretty sure that's one of the movie taglines we've seen before.
Maybe in Edge of Tomorrow or something.
Yeah, yeah, something like that.
Yeah. I do want to mention, it was in my notes and it was in that trailer, actually, that he's like running down the street and there's a guy holding a sign that says "The end is nigh," and I thought that maybe that was a Watchmen reference.
I think it is.
I feel like it is, right?
It is. I mean, it's like a stereotypical thing to do now too. Like, it's like, look, someone's saying this doomsday, and like, he's right just because he's still crazy, but he's right just because the world is actually about to end this time. I also love that in this movie, anytime the Flash talks about going faster, I cannot help think about the Sonic the Hedgehog memes of the internet. It was like, gotta go fast. Gotta go faster. And so every time he said that, I just would think of Sonic the Hedgehog or Sonic as Sonic the Hedgehog.
The internet loves Sonic in way disturbing ways.
Way disturbing ways. And I love how Sega's just embraced it. They just leaned completely into the curve. They're just like, you know what? This is, people are buying our games. This is the only way we're going to keep Sonic relevant, so let's just go for it.
Do what you gotta do.
They're like the anti-Kellogg's, where Kellogg's is just like, you all need Jesus. Sonic the Hedgehog. Sega is just like, you know what, forget it.
Yeah.
You can't save Sonic anymore.
For sure. How'd you guys feel watching this movie? How'd you feel analyzing it a little bit more?
I mean, when I first watched it, it was okay. I never it's not something I loved. Like, there's a few DC animated direct-to-DVD films that I own. This was not one of them. It was one of I love the Flash as a character. But I don't feel this movie is... I guess it's dynamic enough, mainly because it doesn't show the consequences of Flashpoint going back, thinking you fixed it, and then going back. So it's kind of just like, it was all a dream.
Yeah, it's almost like a dream. Like, the stakes are quote-unquote high in the world that they're in, but I'm just like, well, this isn't going to really matter because I know he's going to save the day.
Right.
Yeah.
Because, that's not like it's predictable. I mean, I guess it is because, he's a superhero, but like, it's like, okay, well, obviously Aquaman and Wonder Woman are going to do their thing and kill a bunch of people, but like, it's going to be fine.
But yeah, it's like, you don't feel tense that it's like, oh my gosh, how is he going to solve this problem? I can't wait to see. It's like, I know he's going to do, someone's going to do something. He's going to go back in time. He's going to save it, whatever, and everything will be fine. But that's one thing that I like about the TV show Flash, is that, yes, he does spend time in the Flashpoint timeline, and when he goes back, he immediately has to deal with a lot of consequences for what he did.
Yeah, his original timeline has changed.
Yeah, which I really like about that, because it puts him in a lot of uncomfortable situations.
Yeah.
He has to fix a lot of relationships that he has with people, particularly like Cisco, who blames him, all this stuff. So I liked this movie. I'm not more as familiar as some with DC and Justice League, so like for me watching this, there were a lot of characters in general, and there were a lot of characters that I didn't know who they were, and a lot of times they didn't get a name out loud, like in someone's saying their name or something.
Right, you're just supposed to know who they are based on costume or
voice. Which
like,
I'm like...
Yeah, all the Atlanteans, I'm like, I don't know any of their names.
Yeah, for sure. But like even some of the villains and, because I hadn't read DC, and so like, and I get that obviously a movie like this is made for people who do read the comics, but I do kind of have to like disagree a little, because it's still a movie, and I feel like to a certain degree a little bit of it should be introducing minimally. Like, I'm not saying you need to do a whole scene of like, who's this person and who's that. Obviously I know who Superman is, I know who Batman is, I know who the Flash is, like, that kind of stuff. But like, I just feel like there's so many characters, and like, I'm not familiar with Cyborg. I got it by the end of the movie, what he does, but like, going in, I'm like, I don't know. So like, that first scene before Flashpoint, when he's like fighting all these bad guys, I'm like, most of these bad guys I have no idea who they are. Okay, I know that's Eobard Thawne. Okay, because I watched the TV show Flash, but like,
yeah, Captain Cole, you recognize those, Captain Boomerang.
But so like, I could make it through and understand. Obviously, it's not that complex, but I did have a little bit of a problem with how many characters and how many I was just unfamiliar with.
Well, they throw a lot. I mean, like 80% of the cast in this movie is cannon fodder. So like, they throw a lot of characters at you, and you don't have a time to care about them before they die. It's a lot. They're trying to jam in a lot of information into one movie, and I understand it because these animated films are kind of the answer to people who complain about the movies change so much from the comics. So they make these animated films that are much more faithful to the comics. The problem is comics storylines can unfold over years, and then you basically condense all that into like a 90-minute movie, not even a 90-minute movie. And so you lose a lot in translation. They've done it very well with some other things. One of the best animated DC movies to come out in a long time is Batman Under the Red Hood. That condenses a very spanning story into a 90-minute film in a very good way. This one has its moments. It definitely has some great like Flash moments, time moments. I love the flashback they do with showing the reveal of how Bruce Wayne dies, and then his father becomes Batman. And they do, without getting too deep into the side story, which part of me is glad they didn't, and the other part of me is like, that would have been cool to see on film. Or on animated film, like that happen. They don't go quite into Martha Wayne becoming the Joker of this world, which is a crazy idea. Like, it was a mind-blowing concept when it came out.
I loved seeing that.
Yeah.
That was pretty cool.
Yeah, like you understand why she became it. Obviously, she like had a psychotic break right in the moment. But then like before that, I think he was looking at the board of the Joker cards, and you're like, oh, the Joker. And now you see, oh, it wasn't just the Joker, it was his wife that was doing that.
Yeah.
Right.
When he said, like, oh, this world has monsters that you wouldn't believe or whatever.
Right. It's a cool concept, because if you're like, yeah, Bruce died, and then his dad became Batman, what would happen to the mom? And it's such an unexpected plot point that she would become the Joker.
Yeah.
And it also explains why, Thomas Wayne is willing to, like, gun down people.
Well, I thought it was funny that, like, with Bruce dying, his dad still became Batman, so is becoming Batman a genetic thing? Like, because, like unrelated to Bruce Wayne becoming Batman, he was like, oh, I know what to do. I'll become a bat to fight crime. same idea that his son would have in the future. Like,
Yeah.
is it just genetic?
It's
in the
probably
Wayne.
just is.
It's
It
in the Wayne
probably
genes.
is.
It's just that they both find that underground layer.
Oh, yeah.
Or build the underground layer, and there's bats in there, and there you go.
It's just like that how it should have ended between Batman and Superman and like Spider-Man, where he's like, it's really cool if you don't think about it too hard.
Yeah.
or it's like how Edison and whatever with the light bulb, how they both made it at the same time or whatever.
Right.
Yeah.
Right. You're just like, well,
Parallel thought.
yeah.
Interesting.
It is interesting. It's also very interesting because this Flashpoint Paradox really relies heavily on the New 52 canon of superheroes, which I know they've done Rebirth recently. I have not gotten very deep into Rebirth yet, so apologies to the comic book fans watching. I don't really know what they've changed, what they haven't changed. I think New 52 was just short of a complete disaster. There's a few things they did right in the New 52, but for the most part, they ruined a lot of characters. No offense to Michael B. Jordan or Cyborg. I love Cyborg in Teen Titans. Cyborg is a horribly boring character in the Justice League. He just is not exciting to me. I've never liked... It's so hard to go from John Stewart Green Lantern as like the token black center of the Justice League core to Cyborg. It's like John Stewart is like such a complex and fun character. And then Cyborg he's a robot.
He's a robot.
He has like no personality.
Yeah.
Like he just is so... Cyborg was literally the answer to people saying, man, what would make Superman more boring? Make him Cyborg.
Yeah.
So I don't know. In this movie, they don't do a lot with Cyborg. He's like always there, but you never feel like anything towards his character.
Well, he's just there to move the story along. Like whenever Batman's like, I need this, do this. Or like the president's like, I need this, do this, you know.
Right.
Yeah. He was pretty boring. You know who I hate in the DC universe? Superman. Always have, always will. This movie was definitely not an exception. I was glad that he wasn't in a lot of it, honestly. Also, my issue with Superman is that there's never, like, if he's there, what's the problem?
Right.
You know what I mean? Like, what... Unless it's kryptonite arrows that the Amazonian women are shooting, like, he can solve all of this himself. I like in this, I guess, that at least he's, like, you know...
He's been depowered and, like, he's not as intelligent.
And he's a little bit unhinged, which actually, to me, made him more interesting.
Yeah, it does. Yeah. It makes it humanizes him, and it also nerfs his power a little bit.
I mean, like when you first see him, when he's all like thin and stuff, and he just like freaks out and murders a bunch of people, he like freaks out and then flies away. Like that's like, okay, I get it. He doesn't know who he is or what he can do, and then he just has to like run away.
I know. I wish real timeline Superman was more like.
The best they've ever done Superman is in the Bruce Timm animated series of like Superman the TV series and then Superman Justice League. Because Justice League Unlimited, you have Superman on the team, and yet you never feel like, well, Superman will just solve this, because it's really great writing how they find ways to neutralize Superman or to get an enemy or a conflict that Superman just can't go in and just break something until it works. And I feel like they don't do it very well all the time in the comics or in the movies. And kind of on that same vein, this is the double-edged sword of the Flashpoint Paradox. Prior to the Flashpoint Paradox with the Flash was just a speedster. He was one of those characters who was very great when he was on part of a team, like Justice League, because he served his role. He was like a position player on the squad. But his singular comics, outside of a few notable storylines, are always kind of dry. Because it's like, okay, he runs fast. All right.
Good for him, yeah. Who cares?
Then the Flashpoint Paradox comes out, and it gives this extra edge to the Flash, because he makes... He always had, like, you know, his, like, little quirks and character flaws, but this actually gives him, like, his quote-unquote proverbial cross to bear.
Yeah.
And it gives him, like, a true, like, mistake that he makes that affects a lot of people.
And he can time travel.
Right,
That's
he can time travel.
Yeah.
Powerful thing to have.
It's a pretty powerful thing. And the Flash has time traveled before the Flashpoint Paradox, but this was with his cosmic treadmill, which is a very DC thing to do. To give someone, like, what's something fast someone can run on? treadmill. What should we call it so it sounds sciencey? Cosmic treadmill.
Is it in space? Nope.
No, it's just
gosh.
it's this thing. And my problem though, however, with the Flash in recent years is that the Flash has moved from this speedster character to this time travel superhero, which was never supposed to be the point of the Flash. The Flashpoint Paradox was supposed to be like this big mistake he makes, but I think too often writers who don't know how to write the character use it as a crux, like time travel paradox causes bad things to happen. It's like, you can write good Flash stories without time travel.
Yeah, I like in the TV show that it's like it happens before the Flashpoint in like season 1 or 2.
Yeah,
and,
in a really great way.
Yeah, and it's really good, and he kind of realizes every time he tries to time travel or he does time travel, he like realizes that no good ultimately comes. I mean, some good maybe, but like the consequences of that good versus the bad outcomes are not worth it.
Yeah.
And so that I like buy why he doesn't constantly time travel. And so I think they do that really well. Like, especially after Flashpoint, it's like, this is how bad it is, so you need to chill.
Right.
And he's like,
because it erases the question that's always in the back of your head, like, why doesn't he just time travel and solve this? It's like, well, it may not solve it. Actually, it might make it worse.
Yeah.
I think actually the best moment they've done of time travel was in season 1, where he goes back towards the end of the first season to save his mom. Because that's the crux of the whole first season. Like, my mom died, it caused all these problems.
Yeah.
He goes back and he sees the older version of himself telling him, don't do it. Like, don't save your mom.
Yeah.
And then he has like a nice moment with his mom where he says goodbye to her as she's dying. But that's it. And
then they went and ruined it.
yeah, they went and ruined it.
Yeah, I mean, like, obviously, I don't want to get too much into it, but
Yeah.
like, I'll save it for the actual show discussion.
Yeah.
But like, I don't know, we never see that Flash's story that says don't do it. We never see that.
Yeah.
Right. Unless it's all building to that Flash coming and saying that.
I mean, no, he'll never go back there.
Yeah.
I guess in the story's timeline, at least the Barry that we now follow. Anyways, yeah.
Right. And then
We're talking about
in this
yeah.
movie, they really cheapen that scene. I know they got to like speed through it, but for such a scene that, I mean, it's really what causes everything to happen. It's kind of a background note. Like, they don't really spend a lot of time on the fact that, like, he does this literally to save his mom.
Well, I think it felt to me like they did it, in this movie's context, they did it to make a bigger reveal at the end.
Yeah, the reveal.
And I don't like that.
Yeah.
Because I feel, I tried to look at this movie as if I, like, didn't already know why Flashpoint happened. And so I kind of was like, okay, tried to view it differently. And once they finally said, you went back, you saved your mom, whatever, like as if it's news to him,
Right.
I didn't like that. I felt like we've been watching you through this whole time. I didn't like that you didn't feel any blame until someone else called you out on it.
Right.
The
villain.
world is being destroyed. Yeah, maybe it's your fault. You're the one who caused all this.
Right.
It's insane that he wouldn't think about his actions and changing something like that.
It is a shame, though. I do love the fight and the conflict between him and the Reverse Flash, even though there's not nearly enough Reverse Flash in this Flashpoint Paradox. Reverse Flash is a great villain. He has a terrible title.
Yeah.
Reverse Flash is a terrible villain's name. But
Well, yeah, in the comics, Reverse Flash and Zoom are the same, but in the show, they're all different, right?
yeah, they're all kind of. Yeah. I mean, it's no surprise in the show they usually just call him Thawne or Eobard because it's just cooler. Thawne is a much cooler villain's name than
Reverse Flash,
yeah. But it's just, he's right. I mean, Eobard Thawne's right. Like, it's like, this is your fault. I didn't do anything. You totally screwed this up.
Yeah.
Well,
Literally he said like one sentence when he was being carted off to Star Labs jail, whenever. And yeah, it's all Barry's fault. But like, how much does Barry care at the end of the movie? Like, sure, he went back and he saved it and whatever, but like, then he skips away and from hanging out with Batman and everything's fine. And I'm like, no. Like, I get it. Okay, I get it. It's a kid's movie. It's animated, whatever. I get it. Don't complain to me, listeners. But I'm saying from a storytelling writer's standpoint, that to me is not okay.
No, I'm with you because it's like, why give us this story in animated form if you weren't going to delve into those issues. Like, it should be an excuse to finally do justice to those storylines in the comic books. But instead, when you summarize it like that, it doesn't... What ends up happening in Flashpoint Paradox, even though it's a decent movie, it's like you end up with like not getting a completely satisfactory telling on either side. You don't necessarily get satisfactory fights because there's just too many bodies being thrown out.
Mm-hmm.
And then you don't get satisfactory character development because you're not slowing down to do it.
Yeah.
So you end up with kind of like this weird in-between story where, you know, it certainly may make people want to buy the Flashpoint comics and kind of see like how this unfold in a much more layered out and threaded storyline. But it also could turn people off of the story too.
Yeah. I just don't like that ultimately Barry himself was kind of the bad guy of that world.
Right.
But he didn't seem to really feel that or care.
Right. They don't spend enough time on it.
Yeah.
They don't let them like ruminate on it long enough.
Yeah, I would have rather had him chase Thawne to, you know, Nora Allen's death or something. You know what I mean? Like maybe something more like the TV show.
Right.
A little bit. Just, I don't know. I'm just spitballing, but...
No, I'm with you.
Anyway.
So, yeah. I mean, it is... There's the rules for the movie in Flashpoint Paradox, they simplify the rules a lot compared to the comic and even the TV show.
Yeah.
I think we have a clip
from the TV show, yeah.
And do we have a clip from Flashpoint Paradox as well where they're talking about what they did?
Yeah, let's play that one first.
Yeah, because I think Batman explains, and he kind of talks to Batman and they figure out how everything went.
Yeah, so the first clip is after Barry tries to get his powers and he fails. They talk about like his memories and the timelines, like kind of how they're separate but I guess overlapping each other, I guess.
Mm-hmm.
Somehow I remember things from this timeline. How Aquaman destroyed most of Europe.
Maybe that lightning jogged your memory.
But I can remember my world as well. A world where Aquaman would die before harming innocent people. My memories are changing, realigning with this new history Thawne's created. Soon I'll forget my timeline and everyone in it. My wife, your son. We're getting that world back.
So, I particularly like that clip because I wanted to talk about memories. Because I liked how they told it in this movie, how his memories are changing. And how it kind of, you see it a little bit like, I think there's a montage of like him getting married to Iris and then him sitting at the table with his mom. And like, you know, so it kind of blurs that line. And I really liked how they slowly developed him, you know, his memories changing.
Right.
So,
which makes sense.
Yeah,
I mean,
and in the TV show, they do that only a little bit when he's in the Flashpoint, like, when he's in that moment, but then once he comes back to his original timeline, his memory's fine. Like, when he's in Flashpoint, he's like, I can't remember things anymore, like, you know, my whole life is vanishing, but when he goes back to the other timeline, he still remembers the entirety of Flashpoint. So, like, his memory is fine after that.
Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, that's something that's just always going to happen with the character. He just always, for some reason, when he goes back, he remembers everything that he changed. But when he goes to a new timeline, his brain tries to correct itself, and it starts matching up memories. I mean, it's kind of a convenient plot point. It's just one of those things where it's like, okay, you got to remember what happened before, and then you have to. But you know, it gives him kind of like a time clock. Yeah. When he's in a new timeline, like if he doesn't fix this soon, he's going to think this is the way things have always been.
Yeah.
So you know.
So obviously, how the time travel works in this is that Barry, who is the Flash, has the ability to time travel using the Speed Force. So he runs really, really fast and goes through the Speed Force, and that's how it works.
A time boom, not a sound boom.
A time boom.
Yeah, which we have a clip for that we can show in a couple minutes, I guess, when we get more into the rules, I guess, or whatever. But so I guess in this universe, or whatever, when he goes back in time, it's like he doesn't jump to a different timeline, but the timeline gets changed. Like, so, he can't revisit Flashpoint ever again because it's like the same timeline, but it's re-altered. It's like back to normal, I guess, right? Is that?
Right, yeah.
So it is
like it branches off, but then it's
an alternate timeline, but like he can't go back.
right. It's not like Back to the Future where like I don't know, you can jump between a couple of them. I guess I think at one point they said, "Oh yeah, there's this timeline here, but to get back to this timeline, it's like this is all the one. You can't just leave. You have to fix it."
Mm-hmm.
Right.
You know.
Yeah, that's true. That makes sense comparing it to Back to the Future because they kind of jump a little bit, and it seems to be the same. Just their knowledge changes.
Right. I mean, obviously they fixed their timeline so they can get back to the right one. But if, at least in the rules of the way they explain it, it's like the timeline's still there. They just have to find a way to get back to it.
But even in Back to the Future, it still has some effects, like of technology, because Doc ends up making the train thing.
Right.
Right.
There's always little changes. He goes
Yeah.
back. His parents are happier. His family's happier.
I mean, I guess it is similar.
Yeah,
to that,
so that
in that
idea,
sense. Yeah, it is pretty
that
similar.
in this movie, in the Flashpoint Paradox, we don't really see that much has
Consequences,
changed.
yeah.
Although we do see that Barry delivers a letter to Batman from his father, so
Right.
that would be
He
an
carried
alternate
that.
event that wouldn't have happened otherwise. So
Right.
there are still minor changes when he goes back to the quote unquote more real
Right.
timeline, more
Yeah.
normal one. I don't know how to.
Yeah, no, it was funny.
Call it.
I made a joke to myself, but I was thinking when I was watching,
You made a joke to yourself.
I was just kind of like, I wrote it down, and then I was like, oh, that's a funny one. A funny thought. And it was like a weird moment where I was just like,
picturing you doing
I was like, that's a funny thought. It was just
Okay.
like, because he goes back in time, and I was like, oh man, now the timeline's changed, and now Iris is white. I was like,
Yeah.
I know, yeah.
I was like,
it's weird seeing a white iris. I'm so used to.
it took me a minute. I was like, who is that? And I was like, I guess it's Iris?
it's
Like,
so
he kisses her, so
It's-
that would be Iris.
It's so weird. Me and my brother have talked about this, that like ever since Iris has become black in the TV show and now in the comics, you just can't see Iris as a white person. Like you just like, you know what, you're right. Barry Allen would just
You almost like lose a little bit of respect for the people who created it.
Right.
Almost. Like, that's such a cop-out. Like, she's great. Why you gotta make her white?
yeah, you're just like, who is this
Who's
woman?
this strange red-headed woman?
It's like this is not Iris West. Like I just would have loved a little. He's like, whoa, wait a second, my wife's
you
white
like-
now.
Do you like in the Flashpoint timeline that she like marries someone who looks exactly like Barry?
right?
And like they have a little blonde boy. And I'm like, okay, come on.
For sure, Iris. And I love Jennifer Hale. I mean, it's like she's only there for like basically a glorified cameo.
Yeah.
as
Yeah.
Iris West, and you're just kind of like, who is this woman? I don't like this.
Yeah.
Where's
Right.
Candace Patton?
Yeah. Yeah, who are you? So the rules for Barry's timeline, we kind of have touched on it, but I would say one of the rules is that there are consequences. I
Yeah,
would consider that a
Extreme
rule.
consequences.
certainly. And
And he can't, what's the word I'm looking for? He can't, like, picture what they are when he can't see the outcome.
yeah,
That's
they're
what I'm trying to
unforeseen
say.
consequences.
Yes.
And in our second clip here is Thawne explaining this to Barry, kind of as the world's going to shit. This is like,
Mhm.
yeah, this is the big.
Although we should say, though, in the movie, Barry can't go back to his timeline because Thawne is there, and if he's also using the Speed Force, there isn't, as he says, enough Speed Force to go around. So there isn't, which I
Right.
don't
It's
get
like
that
it's like
whole
a
thing,
bank
but
of
okay.
speed and time force.
Okay.
Because the one important thing is that Barry Allen at one point does not have speedster powers.
Yeah,
He has to get them. He has to
Yeah.
recreate the accident that gave
which
him powers.
it takes him 2 times. So the first time he just is like
Gets
burned.
burned.
Yeah.
Yeah,
Really
and
bad.
then which the scene that we just played, that was right after that happened. So like as we were watching it, he's like bandaged up. He looks like a mummy. And then the second time, it does work, but that's something that the TV show does not touch on.
Yeah, he kept his powers.
He kept his powers, and he's not like hindered by the number of speedsters who are in the same world as he
Yeah.
is.
I mean, yeah, there's
So-
siphoning of speed, but like even when he gave Zoom his speed in the TV show, he still was able to get it back.
It's still, yeah,
He didn't like lose it.
That was.
He was just weaker for a little bit.
Yeah.
Anyways,
So
that's the TV show.
Yeah, that's the TV show. But so this is the clip.
What did you do to the world? Oh, Barry. That's the beauty of all this. I didn't do any of it. You did. Think, Barry. Isn't there some little thing, some little good deed you might have done?
I saved someone.
Yes.
I saved her. I saved Mom.
That's right.
No. It wouldn't have changed all this. It wouldn't have changed what happened before her murder. Bruce's parents, Clark's Landing.
Oh, but it did. Break the sound barrier and there's a sonic boom. You broke the time barrier, Flash. Time boom. Ripples of distortion radiated out through that point of impact, shifting everything just a tiny bit. But enough. Enough for events to happen slightly differently.
I just wanted to save her.
Her hero. How noble. Oh, wait. You didn't stop JFK from getting assassinated. Or make sure Hitler stayed in art school. You saved your mommy.
Yeah, that's kind of what we were touching on, that Barry's action of saving his mom really destroyed the whole world.
Like even events before that time that he went back to, it still like affected things, you know, which I guess also happened in the TV show.
Yeah,
I don't know.
Yeah,
Kinda.
not as extreme.
I mean,
extreme.
like the show doesn't really go back as far as that event anyway, so it's like everything's changed more or less.
Yeah, but it's not as extreme as like Bruce dying instead of Thomas and Martha, or like how Superman, like stuff like that.
Yeah.
Right. Like this is like an extreme shakeup of like the
Like
status
turning
quo.
heroes into villains. That's pretty, which I like actually. I like seeing Wonder Woman and Aquaman. Like I like seeing them as bad guys. I thought it was more interesting.
Yeah, I mean, like my exposure to the DC universe isn't that big, other than like the movies that are now being released. So to see like Wonder Woman, you know, murder people and Aquaman be all psycho, I'm like, oh, this is cool. It's like the people I have an idea in my head of like, but they're doing things that I never see them do.
Right. No, that was kind of, and that's also kind of the appeal of like Flashpoint Paradox. You see like the twisted version of the heroes, because every superhero is really, when you think about it, just a couple degrees away from being like a really big threat to humanity. Like if Superman was ever like, you know what, screw people, like people would be so screwed. It's like, oh my gosh. And so it's interesting to see like what would happen like if everything's a little bit different, and like you didn't have, pretty much everyone loses in this version, Flashpoint Paradox, everyone loses their stabilizing element. Like they lose something that like made them, but kept them on like the right path. Like Aquaman has Mira, so he has his wife. He loses her. That makes him crazy. Wonder Woman has like all of, like the support, and she has like the love of people and like this like faith in humanity, and she loses that, so she decides she's gonna kill everyone. You know, everyone kind of, there's only a few characters that don't have dramatic changes. Cyborg is still
shockingly.
Cyborg is still
a robot.
Cyborg is still a robot, and he's still as plain as Greek yogurt and with no fruit. And then
just plain vanilla.
Just plain vanilla. Hal Jordan's still a fighter pilot. He just doesn't have the Green Lantern ring,
right?
Which means he's just a fighter pilot with a cocky attitude.
Yeah,
who gets a surprisingly big build-up to pretty much do nothing.
Yeah, I was disappointed, especially considering he was voiced by Nathan Fillion.
Yeah, Nathan Fillion's been voicing Green Lantern for a while now in all these DC animated movies, which is weird. He does a good job. At one point, before they switched to the New 52, Christopher Maloney from Law & Order SVU voiced Green Lantern. And I love Nathan Fillion as Hal Jordan, but I think Nathan Fillion's actually should be Kyle Rayner, and Christopher Maloney's Hal Jordan. Because Kyle Rayner's more of like the joking, fast-talking, smart-witted, and then Hal Jordan's more of like the cocky Air Force pilot. Yeah. So, but that's just a little comic thing because everyone's forgotten how Hal Jordan's supposed to be as a character, and it bothers me. But, you know, whatever. I used to read a lot of Green Lantern.
Gotcha. Well, at least the movie brought Blake and Ryan together. for their two beautiful children.
Yeah.
Oh yeah, that's true.
So consequences, obviously, we touched on. It kind of affects everything. It's a pretty big consequence. He doesn't seem to get winded or tired, really, but we don't see him either time. We don't see him immediately after he does travel through time.
Yeah, but his memories are like the consequence. Like,
yeah.
He loses those and stuff.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
So obviously there isn't really a scientific accuracy. It's a comic book.
Well, yeah, but there's stuff I want to talk about though. Obviously we can't do this in the real world, but the entire idea for the Flash being able to travel through time is like a result of Einstein's equations. Like no matter can get to the speed of light. The closer you get to it, the more mass you have. Therefore, the more energy you need to get faster. So you can never actually reach the speed of light. But at the speed of light, to you, the time would be frozen. So like a beam of light, a particle doesn't really experience time. It just is created, and to it just reaches its destination. But theoretically and mathematically speaking, if something were to exist faster than the speed of light, like not getting past there, or it already existed faster than that, it would theoretically be traveling back in time. And in science, this is called a tachyon, which is why you always hear tachyon in all these, sci-fi things, because it's a theoretical particle that exists already being faster than the speed of light. So it doesn't break any laws. It's just now going backwards in time. We don't know if they exist, obviously, because, I don't know, there's no way to find them. There's no way to test for them. But, it's all theoretical. But that's kind of where the Flash got these time travel abilities, because with speed and then faster than light is negative time, essentially.
Gotcha. Well, that's cool. So, obviously...
Gotta go fast.
Yeah. Gotta go fast. Obviously, the time travel is very relevant to the story. It is what the story is about. So that's always good.
It set the stage, yeah, and it is like the resolution, but yeah.
Yeah.
It's like, here's time travel, then let's put time travel at the end, and now let's have superheroes kill each other for 60 minutes.
So clothes and sets, obviously, we saw a lot of costumes and
skin tight superhero stuff.
Yeah, I like how Central City is. I mean, it looks like it's seen better days, but it's like, it's doing okay. And then London's just like gone. London's just like rubble.
London looks like Paris did in Edge of Tomorrow, where it's like in like 2 feet of water, like rubble.
Yeah.
It's
pretty destroyed.
I will say I love Lois. I love tactical army journalist Lois Lane.
I liked her too. She was very much like, "Yo, I don't care what you're doing. This is what we're doing." She's like,
she's gonna try. She's winning that other Pulitzer, man.
And even in death, she's like, "Well, I guess I'll be dead soon too, like my battery."
Yeah.
She didn't care. She got the story. That's all that mattered.
Right.
So let's talk about. We'll go back to the TV show and play the clip that you were talking about. So we just kind of want to compare, really this clip is Barry explaining the Flashpoint concept, I guess. And so we're going to look at it and then we'll kind of see what the similarities are.
After Zoom killed my dad, after we defeated him, I wasn't in a great space, and I felt like the only way I could fix that was to run back in time and save my mom.
You stopped the Reverse Flash from killing your mom?
Yeah.
Wait, so is she alive?
She was. For a few months. I lived with her and my dad. I had a completely different life. I wasn't even the Flash for most of it.
I don't understand. You created a whole other existence. How's that possible?
This is the timeline. This is the point that we exist on it right now. This past point is where my mom was murdered. So when I saved her, I created a new reality, a new timeline. I was living in a mirror universe. It's called a Flashpoint, apparently.
But you decided to leave it. Why?
Life started to spin out of control. I decided to run back in time again and let things happen as they were supposed to, in hopes of resetting the timeline. But
what?
But when I came back, things weren't the same.
You mean people? Like us?
Yeah. I created another timeline. This is the one we're living in now. It's not as different as the last one. Not in large ways, but in some ways, in smaller ways, in meaningful ways for all of you or anybody that's close to me. And I can't ever really put it back together.
There's more to this clip, but
we'll talk about it when we get to the TV.
We don't want to get too into it. It's just like a really intense scene. This is what I was talking about with showing that he feels like I fucked up.
Right.
And now I have to admit it to you, and I have to tell you that there's not a way to fix it. This is just what life is now, and it used to be better, and like, it's my fault, and that sucks, and I'm sorry.
And he lives with it, and he has to...
Which makes him so complicated, and I love it.
Right.
Like, he's always having to deal with this forever now. Like, this is his life. And that's one thing I really like about this. We don't get to see this sort of outcome after, in Flashpoint Paradox movie, after Barry comes back, things are fine, whatever, and it's the end of the movie because it's a movie. Right. But like in this show, it's like, no, yeah, he went back, but now we still have to deal with this.
Yeah, like that was only the first episode of the season.
Second, but yeah.
Well, I mean, like that clip was the second, but Flashpoint happened in the first episode. Yeah. Right. You know, like that wasn't the entire season. It was just like...
Yeah, which kind of surprised a lot of us, actually. I know I was surprised once you kind of knew they were, at the end of the previous season, there was, you know, you kind of knew they were going to go into Flashpoint. And then I was expecting to be there at least half the season, maybe a little bit less, but it was only one episode. And so I like that now we're just kind of forced to deal with everything else since then.
Well, I think the Flash TV show has done well with playing off the drama of the decisions the characters make. Mm-hmm. It would be very weird to have someone tell you, by the way, your life used to be better, but I tried to change something and it made everything worse. And you just be kind of like, it's like frustrating because on the one hand, you don't remember what life used to be like.
Yeah.
But the idea that your life was better has to be like frustrating.
And like, it's also one thing that makes Barry such a hero is that he does tell them, because it would be very easy to just not say anything.
Right, no one would ever know.
Exactly. Who would know? He would know, and he doesn't want to live with the guilt.
Well, Alchemy knows.
Alchemy knows, but...
That's true.
Anyway.
Anyways, that's TV show.
That's TV show. Flashpoint Paradox, no one knows, except technically Bruce Wayne, because Batman has to know everything.
Right.
Would Thawne know?
Thawne knew.
Thawne would know.
But I mean, after he goes back.
Yeah, Thawne would know.
Okay.
Thawne would know.
Yeah, Thawne, he knew. Like, in this scene, he's like, I know what you did. You went back and you...
No, I know, but I mean after... At the very end.
Oh, maybe. Yeah, probably, I guess.
Probably. Thawne, because typically speaking, traditionally, the character Reverse Flash pretty much knows whatever timelines have been shifted.
Because, I mean, like, you know, he's a time traveler himself, and he's connected to Barry with the Speed Force, I would imagine. So maybe there's, like, some thing that he feels or something.
Yeah. Right. I mean, it did seem like...
He could tell when he leaves, maybe.
When they have the conversation that we heard that, like, he was aware of both timelines. So I think it would make sense. Mm-hmm. Cool. So... Do you guys want to experience this time travel? Do you want to be Barry Allen in this movie where it's the end of the world? It's only...
And you caused it.
It's you caused it, and
you go through a lot of pain.
It would be very interesting to see how my friends turn out in a twisted world, but I do not want to do it because it is... I mean, I guess in this version, when you go back, everything... comes back to normal. Yeah. So between the two, I would probably pick this one if someone said, do you want to experience TV show Flash or Flashpoint Paradox movie? That being said, if I experience movie version, I probably will see like you and Matt kill each other for some weird reason.
Yeah. I would totally win that fight.
So I don't want to see that in my life.
It depends on what superpowers we had.
That's true.
Good point.
But
That's
no,
true.
like
if I'm more Jean Grey and he's more, would you be Cyclops though?
I'm going to want to be Cyclops, but I guess it'd have to be.
It would be messed up. I just know, knowing my friends, I'd see some messed up stuff.
Like, if I could choose a superpower, I would be a Dragon Ball Z character and fly around and shoot energy from my hands. But Jean Grey was pretty much God, so...
But you would not be stable. Neither of you would be stable.
Yeah.
You would both
No,
be
Jean Grey would go
unstable.
Dark Phoenix and wouldn't be able to come back.
You'd all lose your
Yeah.
stabilizing
Yeah.
elements. Robbie would... I guess that means Robbie, our friend, my roommate, would not have his fiancée, which who knows what that would turn him into.
Yeah, let's not experience that timeline.
Like, for me,
Anyway.
like obviously for the movie version, the Flash pretty much goes through a lot of pain just to come back to the same world he lived in. So he basically just
Yeah.
got burned
Yeah,
a lot,
yeah.
got
Burned,
impaled in the leg.
impaled in
As
the
much
leg.
as I want to be a superhero and being Barry Allen, that's not the end of the world.
Right.
I wouldn't mind that. But yeah, no, being struck by lightning twice, like
Twice.
burning to death, and then not even sure you're going to get your powers back. No thanks.
Yeah, I'm gonna pass on the movie version.
Don't
TV
forget,
version,
don't forget,
sure.
don't forget the spike through the leg.
Yeah.
Oh yeah.
That's
yeah.
that was honestly that was like one of the most painful things to watch. You're like, oh no,
Yeah,
no, not the
yeesh.
leg.
The leg. He needs those.
Yeah.
Any other things you guys noticed? Other notes? Flash Ring was very prominent in the movie,
Yeah.
which I liked. I liked the bit where he's referred to as Citizen Cold. He's not Captain
Yeah, that was-
Cold
Yeah,
anymore.
Citizen
That was
Cold.
great.
Citizen
That was a
Cold.
really funny bit.
Was the president supposed to be Obama?
I think
That's
so.
what I
'Cause,
was
like,
like, is that an Obama?
It's Obama-ish. It's
Like,
like,
well,
he's
like-
not Obama for legal reasons, but it's
Yeah,
Obama.
I mean,
Yeah.
obviously, like not like for like racist because he's black, but I mean, like the voice actor
it
obviously
sounded
was doing a
Similar,
kind
yeah.
of Obama, like
Yeah,
he didn't.
he was.
It wasn't an overt impression of him, but he kind of had like the same kind of speech pattern almost.
Some of the inflections were
Right, the
similar,
inflections.
Yeah, it was very much supposed to be like, it's not technically Obama, but it is Obama.
Yeah.
You know what I'm
Mhm.
saying, y'all?
Yeah, I think those are all my notes. Kind of touched on everything else. Yeah,
Yeah.
cool. All right, let's do final reviews.
All right.
I'll start. Movie rating. What do I want to give this movie? I want to give this movie a 6.5 out of 10. I liked it. It's on the higher end of the spectrum. I had a few issues with the number of characters and not really being familiar. Like, I'm a comic book person. I don't read DC, but you know, I'm familiar to a certain extent. I watch Supergirl, I watch The Flash, I watch Arrow. Like, I know this, I watch all the movies, I know the stuff. But there was a lot of characters I didn't really know who they were just from looking at them. Just like a bald guy in a suit. Like, how was I supposed to know that like on the boat, like that was Lex Luthor?
Yeah, Lex Luthor, yeah.
I mean, I guess.
Yeah,
but
it's just a bald super
that was,
genius,
like,
pretty much.
It just felt like such a stretch in some ways of like knowing who was who.
Right.
So that docked points for me, and the whole idea of him not really feeling the consequences of his actions emotionally. So yeah.
Yeah, I agree. I won't go too far. I'll probably give it a 6 because it was interesting to see, obviously, this version of the actual more comic play out of the Flashpoint. I'm so used to the TV show, obviously. I don't really read the comics at all myself. So about the same level of knowledge as Jen in terms of the DC universe. But I did like seeing all the superheroes in this different light.
Yeah, I agree.
You know, and yeah, so it wasn't a great movie, but I enjoyed it enough, you know. So yeah, 6 out of 10 for me.
Yeah, I'm going to give it a 6 out of 10 as well. You know, I was thinking about 6.5, but I kind of scaled it back because of the lack of telling us the motivation for why he even caused the time travel.
Mm-hmm.
Because it just kind of takes away a weight from the movie.
Yeah.
It just kind
Like
of
he just wakes up and it's happened.
Yeah, it's just like, okay. And it just seems so unnecessarily, it's just an unnecessary twist.
Mm-hmm.
Like, they could have done a lot of you could have still shown him saving his mom and not have his character realize it was his fault until the end, and it still be an impactful moment.
I agree.
So,
like, yeah, because there's a moment where Thawne just says this line, and then he wakes up and it's different. If he had a scene where he was like, "Wait, did Thawne do something in my past?" and he goes back and like to see if it was Thawne that killed his mom, and it wasn't. He's like, "Well, then I have to save my mom now that I'm here." Like that would have been something, you know.
Yeah.
that would have been something. I also, you know, when I first saw the movie, like, I definitely liked the fight scenes a lot more. And when watching it again, a lot of the fight scenes, like, they cheap out on the animation on a lot of the fight scenes.
Mm-hmm.
And, like, you get a couple good ones. Wonder Woman and Aquaman's throwdown's pretty good.
Mm-hmm.
Obviously, Speed's Reverse Flash and Flash is a good one. but a lot of them, they really, like, you actually don't see a lot of the fight. Like, it's just, like, you just see, like, a little, like, highlights from it.
Mm-hmm.
And that's kind of disappointing. It's like, yo, this is, like, probably the only time I'll ever get to see this, like, in, like, a high-budget or somewhat budgeted production.
Mm-hmm.
Like, let us see it. Like, that's what we really want to see. So, come on.
Yeah.
You know.
Time travel rating, I'm gonna give it a 7, actually, because there wasn't, other than kind of what we were talking about not really knowing what caused Flashpoint until the end. I thought it was fairly, straightforward, other than that, about what was going on, and I thought it was fine. I didn't really have that many issues with the time travel itself.
Yeah, I won't give it that high. The questions about, like, how did he bring the letter back? Like, when he tackled himself in, I guess, the Speed Force or whatever, when he, like, stops himself from going back in the past, did that Barry vanish from that point and then reappear back in his old timeline? Or did his mind just go back to the point at which things changed? If it did, how did he have the letter? So I guess, like, the physicality of it all, like, kind of this Barry doing this things, changing things, and I don't know, I guess in terms of the actual consistency, it's not too bad. Obviously, he changed something, everything's changed, but at that point where there's two of him, I guess kind of wondering how it all mechanically worked out. That's my question. So I'd probably give it like a 5. Yeah.
Okay. Yeah, I'm kind of in the middle here, so I'm just giving it a 6 out of 10. Time travel wise, I think it does some pretty cool stuff. Obviously, it's for the logic of the comic book world. It's very sound. It doesn't break its own rules, which is a big thing to me. It does not break its own rules, which is fine. The idea of a time boom is a little silly.
Yes.
it's just a little like, okay, sure, whatever.
A little sound of thundery.
Yeah. It's just a sound of thundery. It's just a little strange, but I do like that, the idea that, like, one change can cause such a big ripple effect with people.
Yeah, for sure.
Yeah. So,
cool. So our next episode, well, there is a Rotten Tomatoes page for this, but there's only 5 reviews. So it's at 100%, but that's not...
Average rating was 7.6, so it's like...
So there you go.
No, the user ratings is 93% liked it, and that was over 5,000 user ratings. So
that's pretty... Yeah, that's pretty good. That's pretty high. But our next episode is going to be a dual episode.
Ooh,
Drum roll.
Yeah.
Matt, what are you doing for us?
So the first movie of the double is going to be Donnie Darko. Now, originally, we weren't going to do this movie in a full episode because the time travel isn't that relevant. But then I realized at one point that S. Darko, not the sequel, but the next movie, I guess, in the world.
It's kind of it is a sequel.
Okay, sequel. So that also involves time travel. So I've heard. So we're going to do both.
Yeah, so I think I'm the only one that's seen S. Darko, right?
I've never seen it yet.
Yeah, so... yeah, I'm pretty sure I saw this, like, the year it came out. I don't think I saw it in theaters or anything. It might have been a straight-to-DVD-ish. I mean, I think it was probably in theaters, but not for very long.
Mm-hmm.
It's a sequel, but he's not in this movie. It's called S. Darko because it's about his sister, Samantha. So that's what that is.
But, like, different director, right? Different writer?
Yes. Yes.
Okay.
Very well.
Oh, I see. Well, he did the characters. Okay.
Yeah. Okay, so Donnie Darko, if you haven't seen it, definitely recommend watching this movie. It's a cool movie. I've always enjoyed it.
It was like in high school. It was like the movie you like saw, like, oh man, it's so cool.
It's like
man.
it's a totally different movie, but it's kind of like Inception of its time.
Yeah,
little bit.
Like Babby's first Inception or whatever.
Yeah, it's like makes you think a little bit, and it's kind of like trippy and weird and cool. So, but Donnie Darko came out in 2001. Obviously, stars. Well, maybe not. I don't know. I always say that, but to me, it's obvious. Obviously, it is a Jake Gyllenhaal movie. Also starred Jenna Malone, and I think Maggie Gyllenhaal is also. Is it this one?
I don't know. I don't think she's in this one.
No.
But
Yes, she is.
She's Elizabeth.
She's the other sister. She's the other older
the older
sister.
one. Oh, that's right.
Yeah. So I was like, I'm pretty sure there's a scene of them talking together at the table.
Yeah.
They're talking about like a president or something.
Yeah, she voted for Reagan, I think, or something.
Yeah.
Right.
Wow, I forgot she was in this movie.
But the synopsis, a troubled teenager is plagued by visions of a man in a large rabbit suit who manipulates him to commit a series of crimes after he narrowly escapes a bizarre accident. So, I will also say that Jenna Malone in this movie is the celebrity I get compared to the most.
Mm-hmm.
Her specifically from this movie.
Mm-hmm.
So, that, and then S. Darko came out in 2009. Donnie Darko's little sister Samantha Darko and her best friend Corey are on a country cross road trip.
That seems like a title.
Yeah, that's messed up on their fault.
No, okay. They find themselves entangled in a dangerous glitch in this time-space continuum. Again, space-time continuum is okay. Whatever. So that one is DeVay Chase, who is the same actress who plays. I'm pretty sure. Yeah. Who plays his little sister in the other movies. It's the same actress. Obviously, she's older. And Brianna Evigan plays her friend in S. Darko, who some of you might know. At least I know her from the second Step Up movie. She's the lead. Fun fact.
Elizabeth Berkley's in S. Darko, too, which is interesting.
And so is Jackson Rathbone from Twilight.
Yeah.
So there you go. So those will be interesting. We'll kind of talk about them both. So Donnie Darko, definitely watched that. I'm the only one who's seen S. Darko. Judgment call, it's up to you if you want to watch it or not.
Yeah, it might be half and half. I don't know. There isn't much time to talk about Donnie Darko, but
yeah, it's not.
There'll be enough to talk about with both of them.
It's not the greatest movie I've seen. I'll say that. But some of you might like it, so
The sequel I never heard of is not that good.
I'm just trying to be nice. Okay, and so our social media, of course, we are at Time Travel Trio, all one word, on Twitter and Instagram, and we are the Time Travel Trio podcast on Facebook, so please like and follow us on everything if you want. No pressure. Mm-hmm. We are also on iTunes, SoundCloud, and Stitcher for free, of course, so make sure to rate, subscribe, and do all that kind stuff there. And personal, I am at Jen Marlis. On Twitter and Instagram.
I am at Forward in Space on those things.
Are you?
And I am Robin's in his hide on those as well.
He is hide. It's true. And with that,
we are out of
time.